Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a drink. It is time for some Path of Exile 1 discussion. Today, we have a Week 3 patch for the Mirage League, which is something that's a little bit unusual and actually something I'm really excited to see because it is usually the case that by the time the third weekend of the league is over, at least 50%, often 55 to 60% of all the hours that are going to get played in that entire league have already been played. It's not so much that 55% of the player base quits after Week 3, it's more that players continue playing, but just don't play it as much as they were before. So while some individuals definitely burn out really quickly, they finish everything they want to do in the first week, then quit, most of the people that end up dropping away, they play really, really intensely over the first weekend, maybe even through the first week and the second weekend, and then they stop playing intensely. They keep playing, might even play all the way through to the end of the league, but where at the start of the league they might be playing 24 hours in a week, later on they're playing 2 or 3. Based on this, I think it's the case that more than half the hours that were expected to be played in the Mirage League have probably already been played, and the fact that we're seeing this is a really good sign that they're intending to keep things from the Mirage League around. Anyways, that's getting into speculative territory. Let's get into news territory instead. This patch is not currently live. It's going live this week at some point. Firstly, some buff effects are now going to transition with you through combat areas like temporary minions. This includes Rage, Fortify, most charges, and shrines with one very important exception. This is the Evolving Shrine from the Domination Scarab of Evolution. That one may have been a little bit broken if you were able to get it both in the outside map and also get a second copy of it inside the Mirage area. This is going to be a huge buff to a lot of shrine-related strategies, and honestly, I had unspec shrines because I didn't think they were working very well in this league. Now, there's obviously really good shrine-oriented builds, but that involves optimizing around shrines substantially. If you're not optimizing around them, then they were just feeling like they weren't quite there because you had to then rebuild momentum upon entering the Mirage. That issue is gone, so shrines, now a good strategy again. Secondly, this one I've got to give you a warning on, right? This is a big change that feels like quality of life at first. It's actually quite a big balance change as well. But, hardcore players, pay attention. This one's for you. There is a map mod that says monsters cannot be stunned. You are going to die if you learn to rely upon this new change and you get out of some of the habits that you get into. So, hardcore players, do not rely upon this. It might save you once in a blue moon, but just rely upon your own strategies that you've already developed for getting into a Mirage. All that out of the way. What is the change itself? The first time you move upon entering a Mirage, a powerful shockwave will trigger to stun enemies that are near the player. This is to mitigate situations where the player is immediately swarmed upon entering a Mirage. So basically you go from grace period to being absolutely swarmed by an incredibly dense pack of monsters. That's the problem they're trying to solve here. The way that I had been addressing this in the past was by opening up by shield charging away a little bit, then frost blinking out of that shield charge quickly as well. That was working for me. Every now and again I would forget and I would go splat. This is going to be a better solution, but just remember there is that map modifier. Monsters cannot be stunned. It is going to be a wrecking ball with this. After this, correct the error message that displays when trying to use the Divine Font on an imbued gem. Now, if you've spec'd Trial of Glory on the Atlas passive tree, you'll get a bunch of extra Labyrinth trials, and 1 in 5 of them will be Uber Labyrinth trials. Now, I'm using that term. They look a little bit different, but they also say above them before you enter them, this contains an improved offering to the goddess. 1 in 3 of these will drop a dedication to the goddess. The other ones will drop a gift to the goddess, which is what you want to see, and a tribute to the goddess, which is the one you don't want to see. Anyways, these enhanced Labyrinth trials, the dedication one is the one that's being changed here, and it has a problem at the moment. It is not intended to work with gems that have been imbued by a coin of skill or the like to have a built-in support gem on them. However, currently it's just giving you wrong feedback when you attempt it. It's correctly not working, but it's incorrectly telling you that the reason it's not working is because the gem is corrupt. And there's just going to be a correction to that text message that's going to get fixed in this patch. So this is a pretty minor one, only comes up if you're running dedication to the goddess Labyrinth trials, and there was a big PSA over on Reddit about this one because I didn't know that it wasn't working with those enhanced gems. Fix a bug with several wishes that added extra monster packs to the Mirage. Sometimes the extra packs were wasted because they spawned outside the Mirage boundaries. So these say they add 12 packs. In the past, they were not adding 12, they were adding fewer than 12. They're going to be more impact than they were before. Mirages will no longer spawn in a particular spot in City Square because when they did, they were kind of bricked. And the Astral Touch modifier now has special font coloring. This one's probably at the less important end, but anyways, it's there. Next up, we have a section called General Improvements. This is changes that apply even outside the Mirage Challenge League. So this is to core game mechanics. This will apply if you're playing in Mirage, but also if you're playing in Standard League, these things are going to matter as well. Firstly, I'm not actually sold on this being an improvement. Unique maps will no longer show whether or not you've completed them when you hold advanced mod descriptions on them. So if you're running through a map and you happen to find a Poor Joy's Asylum on the ground, you pick it up and then you're like, oh, I hold Alt over it, and I see, oh, bonus objective incomplete. Maybe I still need to run this. I'm going to keep it. Otherwise, you go, bonus objective complete. Okay, cool. This isn't worth anything. I'll just drop it on the ground. So you don't have that ability anymore. You actually have to get back to looking at the Atlas. I feel like this might actually be a quality of life degradation, in my opinion. I don't know whether other people agree with that, but I don't think it's a very significant change, just that it feels like a very small quality of life nerf in my mind. Fix a UI bug where some Atlas nodes in the far corners of the Atlas were not hoverable when the corresponding voidstone had been unlocked. So this is one or two of the maps formerly known as Tier 17 maps, and also I think one or two of the Uber Pinnacle bosses. They were just playing up a little bit and you couldn't hover them properly. That's now going to be fixed. Added more informative error messages when applying memory threads to invalid nodes on your Atlas. I'm glad to see this one because there's a couple of times that I've attempted to apply a memory thread, it's failed, and I've not known why. And I've just gone, all right, I'll just go and apply it to a different map, or I'll just wait a little while and then try again. So hopefully there'll be a little bit more clarifications to exactly why they're not working. This is the memory threads that were itemized. So these are the things where you encounter Aegon in a map, and Aegon gives you an itemized memory thread that you then use in order to get access to one of the regular versions of the Pinnacle bosses that are tied to him. When viewing the Atlas, holding or hovering a map will now cause Atlas nodes of that map tier to highlight with a white glow. This one is really, really useful. So if you're wanting to check, have I done all the tier 8s? The way that you used to do this was to just type 8 in the search bar at the top. Now all you need to do is just hover with a tier 8 map and you'll see them all quickly. This could be really useful, especially for that period at the start of the league when you don't yet have your 100 standard maps, and it's not going to matter after a little while. The map device will no longer show the influence button options for unique maps that can't be influenced. That's a very small quality of life thing. All uncompleted unique maps on the Atlas will stop pulsing blue once you've completed any 10 unique maps. Now, if you're a completionist or if you're aware of the fact that there is a challenge to do 17 specific unique maps, this might be a very slight nuisance, but very, very slight. Mostly, I think this is going to be a quality of life improvement. Kerak's Invitation UI will no longer show the Maven, Eater, and Exarch influence buttons. Yeah, that was just a little bit of a bug that they were showing there at all. And here is my favorite quality of life thing in the entire patch. While you're using Chaos Orbs, you can now hold Alt to swap to using an Exalted Orb. So this league, Chaos Orbs and Exalted Orbs have cratered in price. However, this is meaning that they're a bit more spammable than they were in the past, and in particular that Exalting Maps and Exalting Invitations, which is where I think this is going to be at its very best, is now something that people do even more than they used to do. It's not that it was never done before, but now you can definitely go a bit berserk and just exalt pretty much anything you want. So with that in mind, you can now hold Alt to swap over to using an Exalted Orb. You just have a look and say, okay, I've got map mods that I can do. That's fantastic. Then you get one that you can't because you exalt it. And you go, all right, well, now I'm back to using Chaos Orb. Just release the Alt button and click again. Really, really good there. Transfusion support got a little bit of clarification text here. So it's getting reminder text to state that it prioritizes the closest minion that is not presently at maximum souls. This is not a change to the way the gem functions. It's always functioned like this. It's just a text clarification. Next, we have some bug fixes. Firstly, sometimes harvest bosses were being naughty. They won't be naughty. They're only going to last for 40 seconds in their vine phases. Misty Reflection skill from the Delirious bloodline can no longer be repeated. Now, the reason for this is that when it was being repeated by any means, this was then going to mean your character became invisible for the rest of that zone, and also the skill was unusable. So it ended up being kind of broken. You don't want that behavior, so it's just no longer going to be able to echo by any means. Now, Legacy of the Rose, unique staff. This was bricked when in boss room encounters. That's being fixed. You can now get remembrance charges for this staff after entering a boss room. Fixed a bug where the last shard fired by Eye of Winter of Transience was in the wrong location. I have a funny feeling this is going to be one of the smaller impact bug changes here. So there's a bug with packs that were added by Bismuthor. So when you have a Bismuth encounter, there's a whole bunch of magic monsters that swarm around it. They were sometimes having duplicate monster mods. They're intended to have two different ones, which is usually harder than having two copies of the same one, and that's now going to be fixed. Fix the bug where the influencing Scarab of Interference could not be used alongside the Horned Scarab of Awakening. So these are ones that add additional endgame bosses, and they weren't working together, they're going to work together now. Fix the bug where the Shaper time stop during the Nightmare of Lycia boss fight in the Sanctuary map was able to brick the encounter entirely. So here, you're pretty unlucky to have this happen. When you've got the Shaper and Elder Voidstone socketed, there's a 25% chance that your maps are Shaper or Elder influenced. So 1 in 8 that they're Shaper influenced. If you hit that, then there's a few different things the Shaper can do, and one of them is the time stop. If you roll a time stop, so it's kind of 2 rolls you got to lose there, then in that case, the Nightmare of Lycia was bricking mid-fight, which is reasonably frustrating. Anyways, only comes up something like 4% of the time, but now 4% is being improved down to 0, which is the number that it belongs to be. Fixed a bug where the Incarnation of Dread could rarely leave an invisible donut area of fire damage over time after the Incarnation had gone splat. Fix a bug, again, Incarnation of Dread, where he, in the Feared Maven invitation, was spawning additional chilled ground after dying. Fix a bug where Serpent Warrior Spectres were not using skills when defensive. Fix an issue where Val Impurities were just not working full stop, applying their buff to you. Fix the Harvest Craft for plus 0.1 meters to weapon range per 10 quality, having an incorrect description at the Horticrafting station. And fix a display bug where corrupted maps were no longer saying area is corrupted in the list of map mods. And then after we've just rapid fired a whole bunch of kind of nothing changes, we've got a pretty significant one here. This is the Nightmare of Uhtred, boss of Citadel map. This one had a very, very nasty bug where the array of beams from the mirror in this fight, they no longer had a medium-sized gap in the middle of the array. So you really needed a lot more movement speed than intended to beat this fight. That is now being fixed. After this, fix a bug where players could not toggle Eldritch Influence while interacting with Aegon's map device while using a controller. Client crash, 3 of them fixed, 1 of which was affecting only macOS and 2 of which were affecting everyone else. So there's a whole lot of different changes there, but I think the biggest things here, there's a Chaos Orb, Exalted Orb quality of life change. This thing is huge. Like, this thing is going to be absolutely fantastic. It's not something I thought that I wanted, but now that I hear about it, it's definitely something I wanted. Fix a bug with wishes that added extra monster packs, that these will actually give you what they're intended to give you. That's a big deal. The Shockwave, which is going to be fantastic, except for those maps where it doesn't work. And you've got to remember that, because those maps you're going to have a really bad time on. And some buff effects are now going to transition with you through combat areas like temporary minions. This one's huge. Rage, Fortify, Charges, Shrines, all of this is really fantastic. And the deliberate exception for Evolving Shrine makes a bit of sense there as well. That's something that means that they don't need to nerf the Evolving Shrine in order to make this change. So, a whole bunch of things that are coming. Don't know when this is coming, but it'll be this week at some point. I also wanted to just really quickly finish with a PSA that I actually found over on the Path of Exile 1 subreddit, and that is that Iron Flasks have exploded in price. The magic number on these is 84, so you're looking for an item level of 84 plus, you are looking for not corrupted, and you are looking for non-unique. Once you have these 3 set, have a look at what these prices start looking like. That is right, you are paying tens and tens of divines for them at the moment. So, these are rare, but they're not staggeringly rare if you're running the right type of content. Definitely have a look for them. This is Iron Flasks from Expedition exclusive monsters, and something that probably by the time people react to this news, you might find they go down in price again. But there's a couple of really cool builds that want 4 of these this league. I'm going to leave it there. May your volatile Varlorbs have interesting results.